Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 7 of the Derek Dukes podcast. I am Derek Dukes. Leading off this wonderful podcast is the end of the Bill O'Reilly era. If you've been living under the rock this past week or so, then you heard the news that Bill O'Reilly, host of the O'Reilly Factor on Fox News Channel, has been fired. And the reason behind that is because he has pending lawsuits of sexual harassment towards women who either work for Fox News indirectly as in the building or somewhere along the lines as contributors to the Fox News network. Now, ever since we can all remember, Bill O'Reilly's O'Reilly Factor, which originally started out as the O'Reilly Report, is the number one program in cable at its current 8 p.m. time slot on, again, the Fox News channel. And this is most likely is going to happen according to TV Newser. We have Tucker Carlson and his show Tucker Carlson Tonight that was originally on at 7 o'clock, replacing Greta Van Suttern's show On the Record, which she moved over to MSNBC and hosts a show called For the Record on MSNBC, an hour before her own time slot at 7 o'clock on Fox News Channel. Then Tucker moved again to Megyn Kelly's old time spot, again before she left Fox and moved over to NBC News for a replacement of the Third Hour Today show and her Saturday primetime news magazine. And now Tucker is going to move once again, this time to the 8 o'clock hour, replacing Bill O'Reilly and his O'Reilly Factor show. Now, if he's going to 8 o'clock, you're probably thinking, who on earth is going to go to 9 o'clock? According to, again, TV Newsers and some sources at Fox News Channel, The Five, which is a political talk show of some sorts, which currently airs coincidentally at 5 o'clock Eastern, is moving to 9 o'clock, and all the panel will be there except the host, which is Eric Bolding, who, as of May 1st, again, this is according to Fox News, is going to get his own show at the 5 o'clock hour. And if memory serves me correctly, this will be... So we had Glenn Beck says he left to take care of his own media show. We had Media Network, rather, known as The Blaze. We had Laura Ingraham, who was on at 5 o'clock for at least, I think, a couple of weeks before that show got canceled. And The Five, which originally supposed to run throughout the summer after Glenn Beck left and that show just in, it stayed on and became one of Fox's highest rated shows there is. So it's getting very unique over at the pace of We Report, You Decide. And my take on it is this. I thought O'Reilly should have stepped down sooner instead of being forced out, so at least leave with some dignity. Many people are taking credit of him stepping down. For example, Ultraviolet, which is the protest group that protested outside of Fox News, they were quoted in saying, and I'm reading them from here, the fact that Fox News is only taken action against O'Reilly after an investigation revealed that they could not be defrauding shareholders by not revealing payments made to cover up the abuse isn't lost to everyone. The first accusation of sexual assault lobby against Bill O'Reilly were made against Bill O'Reilly at Fox News were made more than 13 years ago. Unless Fox News made the results of the investigation public and fired all those who are guilty of or complicit in covering the sexual harassment, advertisers and the general public will continue to have cause for concern. And again, that's a statement by Ultraviolet, which is the protest group that protested outside of the Fox News studio where Bill O'Reilly was taping his O'Reilly Factor show at. And 13 years. 13 years. He should have left 13 years ago. Which, if he would have left 13 years ago, he'll be within the first few years of him working at Fox. Well, having his show on Fox. And I'm pretty sure that show would have gotten canceled. But knowing how office politics work, somebody turned a blind eye. And once somebody turned that blind eye, they like, we're just going to let this go. But again, you only could turn that eye so much before the network says, we can't take this anymore, we're losing money, and we have to let you go. Why? Because they have to do, at the end of the day, what's best for business. Now, our second topic I want to get into is that a Survivor castmate got ousted as transgender. I'll explain. Zeke Smith, who was the victim and the transgender in the situation, was outed by another contestant known as Jeff Warner, who is an openly gay man. And as Smith, again, this is on national television, taped months beforehand, as Smith, why haven't you told anyone here you're transgender? No, the words that I can think of when I found this out was, oh, sugar, honey, iced tea. Because, one, I understand, the name of the game is Survivor. Two, you can't do that to people because, again, that's not right. What if somebody wasn't comfortable in doing, comfortable in revealing themselves just yet? Because, again, it could cause a lot of psychiatric abuse, trauma, and not to mention, as I mentioned, that this wasn't just done in front of the 7 or 8 people that was playing the game. This was taped, and this was shown for the world to see. Which, after the show aired, Mr. Smith, Jeff Frost, host of Survivor, and CBS officials were working with the GLAAD agency to make sure that how they could somehow, some way, not have blood on CBS's hands, says in the deed that this aired on their network, on their time, on primetime television. This is the statement that Mr. Frost issued out during, and I'm quoting here, during the 34 years of Survivors, it's the first time something like this happened. Which is true because, again, when it comes down to multiplayer reality shows, something is bound to go wrong. This was one of those something that it was bound to go wrong, and it could have been made worse. But his fellow castmates came to his defense, and they all decided that Mr. Warner will be voted off the show. Now, a few days after that, the real estate agency that Mr. Warner worked for basically gave him the 2 words, you're fired. Why? And again, I'm paraphrasing here, because they don't want any negative reaction coming back to them. They want to make sure, again, do what's best for business, and that, what he did was wrong, even though, granted, he was working for them at the time, but let's just say stuff like that, in the business world, you can't do that at all. Because, again, it will make somebody feel bad. Now, our next story, which is kind of weird. Aaron Hernandez, who is the former football player of the New England Patriots, was, at the time of this recording, was in jail serving a life sentence without parole. He was found dead early Wednesday morning in his jail cell around 3:05 a.m. Pronounced dead an hour later, and according to officials, that they found a bed sheet tied around his neck, and he was hanging his bed sheet out his window. Now, his attorney, Jose Baez, which we all remember him from the Casey Anthony trial days, said that when he talked to Mr. Hernandez, that he did not show any signs of suicide or suicidal thoughts, which leads many to believe that he could have possibly been murdered, which I agree with that statement. Here's why. Now, I've never been behind bars, never plan on it, never will, but I'm pretty sure the inmates that are there, they know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody in a higher position, and they probably say, you know what, let's kill him and make this look like a suicide to ensure that there's no blood on nobody's hand, and they could get away scot-free with murder. Now, if indeed this was a suicide, this was, again, shocking to everybody who found out the news early this morning. No, he didn't seem, according to what I see, his public demeanor, like the one who would, hang himself in a jail cell. And according to people who were by him or known him for a while, they said he was always the bad boy type. He always gets himself into some sort of trouble. But I didn't think, and again, that's what they said. This is going back to me now. I didn't think a guy like him will possibly do something like that. Especially now, his 4-year-old daughter is going to be asking the pivotal questions. Where's Daddy? Why Daddy did that to himself? And again, the child's 4, and now, this is going to leave psychiatric trauma on both the child and the fiancé that was subject to get married, which I don't know how you do a prison wedding behind bars. And it just messes up the whole entire, psyche of the child. So, that's that. Now, we all remember the United passenger who got unceremoniously kicked off the plane. I was watching the daughter, and the daughter gave a statement on how her dad was doing, along with, of course, the attorney there present, because, again, in these type of situations, you got to make sure you get an attorney so that you can be sitting on a crap load of cash. The attorney said that his client suffered a broken nose, concussion, and he will have to get his nose reconstructed. Meaning the dollar signs is going into the millions right about now, and fast in a hurry. But if I were United, I would have done it differently. I mean, granted, you offer people $800 to get up and walk out, and you write them a nice big check for them. But why stop at $800? I'm pretty sure with all the money United made, you could offer them more money, like at least $1,000, $2,000, hell, go up to $5,000 for all I care. But by opening up a can of whoop ass, dragging the poor guy out, then saying nobody's going to get fired from it, which that's an outrage, because again, there's more ways to have people go off the plane by breaking their nose, causing them to bleed from their mouths, most likely a concussion. But you know what? That was just wrong, and I just hope that the family, gets the amount of money to compensate for their loss, so that they could move on properly. And of course, the medical bills got to be paid. You got to pay the attorney a decent amount of money, because this is not, the time, the effort, and all the other good stuff. So you got to make sure that you properly compensate them. Now, before we go here on the DDP, I just want to again remind everybody that the GoFundMe campaign is alive and well. We have our first donation of $20 from Mark Angeles. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. But it doesn't stop there. We have to get them. I have a goal, and that goal is to become the best journalist there is. Since again, I don't take journalism as a joke. I love holding people accountable, and I will not be afraid to ask the questions that needed to be asked. So at the bottom of in the description, rather, to use the more technical term, will be the link. And again, any amount helps, and to ensure that journalism will not be a deaf mute. That's it for this edition of the Dara Dukes podcast. I am your host, Dara Dukes, and until we meet again, friends, stay gold.